It is Friday. It is 1983. You are in the passenger seat of someone's older brother's car, and the windows are down, and the volume is up, and the DJ just said something you didn't fully catch, but everyone laughed anyway. The song that comes on next is one you have heard maybe 40 times this week, and you are not tired of it. You will never be tired of it. Outside, the parking lot of the McDonald's on Route 9 is filling up the way it always fills up on Friday nights. And somewhere across town, on the other side of the dial, a different DJ on a different station is talking to a different group of people in a different car. And none of you will ever meet, but all of you are listening to the same city at the same time. That is what Friday night radio felt like. There has been nothing like it since. The FM dial in an American city in the 1980s was a specific and irreproducible thing. Not a playlist, not an algorithm, a place. Each station had a sound you could identify in 3 seconds. The jingle, the reverb on the DJ's voice, the particular way the compression hit on the top of our news break. Regular listeners knew their station the way they knew a neighborhood. They knew which DJ worked which shift. They knew that the Friday night countdown started at 7 and ran until midnight, and they organized the early part of their evening around being somewhere with a radio when it began. The DJ was the center of it. Not the music. The DJ. The music was the reason you tuned in, but the DJ was the reason you stayed. A good FM DJ in the 1980s was a specific kind of professional. He had a voice that sounded like it belonged on the radio in a way that very few voices do, and he knew how to use the 3 or 4 seconds between songs without wasting them. He knew when to talk and when to get out of the way. He knew that dead air was a failure, and that too much talk was a different failure, and that the distance between those two things was where the job actually lived. The best ones made you feel like they were talking to you specifically, not to a market demographic, not to an audience of hundreds of thousands, but to you in that car on that particular Friday night. The request line was part of this. A real phone number, printed in the phone book and spray painted on the side of promotion vans, and read aloud on air so many times that you knew it by heart. You called from a payphone or from the kitchen wall phone with the long cord stretched into the hallway for privacy. And most of the time, you got a busy signal because everyone was calling, and occasionally you got through and heard a real human voice ask you what you wanted to hear. If your request made it to air, the DJ said your name. He said it to the entire city. For approximately 4 seconds, you existed on the radio, which in 1983 was as close to being famous as most people ever got. The Top 40 format built the Friday night experience more than any other. A station running Top 40 in 1983 played the same 40 songs in heavy rotation, and the ritual of the countdown, the weekly ranking of those songs from 40 down to 1, was appointment listening in a way that streaming has never managed to replicate. The countdown had stakes. A song moving up 3 spots meant something. A song falling out of the top 10 after 6 weeks was a small cultural event. You followed it the way you followed a sports season, with the same investment in outcomes and the same satisfaction when the thing you predicted actually happened. But Top 40 was only one frequency on the dial. Slide left, and you hit the AOR station. Album-oriented rock, deeper cuts, longer songs. A DJ who took himself more seriously and played things that the Top 40 station would never touch. Slide further, and there was the Soul station, the one that started slow in the early evening and got progressively less slow as the night went on. In larger cities, there was a jazz station broadcasting from somewhere near downtown, its signal weaker than the commercial giants, its audience smaller and more devoted. Late at night, after midnight, the signal behavior of AM radio changed in ways that the daytime dial never prepared you for. Clear channel stations, WSB in Atlanta, WLS in Chicago, WGN, KDKA, WSM in Nashville, could be pulled in from hundreds of miles away, their signals bouncing off the ionosphere and landing in places their engineers had never intended. A kid in rural Indiana could lie in bed with a transistor radio pressed against his ear and pull in a baseball game from St. Louis, a country music broadcast from Nashville, a talk show from New York, all on the same night, all on the same band. That felt like magic because it was, in the only sense that matters. Something that worked by rules most people didn't understand and produced results that felt larger than the machine producing them. The car radio was its own world within that world. Detroit had understood, since the 1950s, that the car radio was not an accessory, but a fundamental part of the driving experience. And by the 1980s, the relationship between American cars and American radio had matured into something close to symbiosis. The aftermarket industry was significant. Pioneer, Kenwood, and JVC were selling units that cost more than some used cars, with detachable faceplates you could take with you when you parked to prevent theft, which was common enough that the practice was universally understood. A car with a good stereo was a different kind of car. A Friday night drive with the right song at the right volume on a road you knew well enough to take without thinking was a different kind of experience than any that required a ticket or a reservation. The mixtape existed in relationship to the radio rather than in opposition to it. You recorded off the air onto cassette, a 90-minute Maxell or TDK, rewound and curated over weeks, trying to catch the song before the DJ talked over the end, lifting your finger off the record button during the commercials, building a private archive of the radio's best moments. The mixtape was proof that you had been listening. It was evidence of taste and patience, and the particular kind of effort that goes into making something for someone else. A mixtape made from radio recordings in 1984 was a document of a specific moment in a specific city on a specific dial, and the people who made them and the people who received them understood that, even if they never said it in those words. What you did not have, and what requires some effort to remember clearly now, was choice in the modern sense. The algorithm did not know your preferences. The station played what it played, and you listened, or you changed the dial. That constraint, which looks like a limitation from the outside, was also a kind of gift. It meant that you heard things you had not chosen. Songs that the DJ decided were worth your time, even if you didn't know it yet. Artists you would never have searched for because you did not know they existed until the moment they came through the speakers. Discovery was not a feature of the experience. It was the experience. Every Friday night held the possibility of a song you had never heard that would matter to you for the rest of your life, and the only way to find it was to be listening when it came on. That possibility is gone now in any meaningful sense. The streaming platforms know what you like, and they give you more of it, which is efficient and correct and produces a listening experience that is competent and satisfying and utterly without surprise. The recommendation engine is very good at finding you things that are similar to things you already love. It is structurally incapable of finding you things that are different from everything you have ever heard. Things that require a DJ who believed in them, a Friday night, and the fact that you had no choice but to be listening. The FM stations still exist. Many of them broadcast from the same frequencies they occupied in 1983, carrying the same call letters and sometimes even the same jingles. But the DJ who worked the Friday night shift is mostly gone, replaced by voice-tracked content recorded in another city and dropped into the local schedule by automation. The request line still exists at some stations as a promotional relic, answered by an intern on Tuesday afternoons. The spontaneous, live, specific to this city feeling of a Friday night in 1983 is not something a transmitter can reproduce without a human being on the other end of it. And the economics of commercial radio decided sometime in the late 1990s that human beings were too expensive for that purpose. The transistor radios are in junk shops now. The DJ air checks, recordings that operators made of their own broadcasts, preserved on reel-to-reel and cassette, are being digitized by volunteers and uploaded to archive sites where they get tens of thousands of plays from people who were not alive when they were recorded. There is something in that worth sitting with. The people doing the listening know they are not getting the full experience. They know they are hearing a fragment of something that required a specific Friday night to be complete. They listen anyway, because even a fragment of that particular signal is worth more than most of what the algorithm serves up on a Tuesday morning in 2026. What was your station? What was the frequency? What was the song that came on and made you turn it up? Leave it in the comments. The city, the call letters, the year if you remember it. This is the last frequency. Every Friday night, someone was broadcasting. Not everyone was listening closely enough.